If you want your teenager to stop telling you the truth, there are a few parenting moves that work beautifully. And most of us do them with the best of intentions. But if you want your teen to trust you, talk to you, and come to you when it actually matters, then you need a different playbook. In this video, I'm going to walk through 8 common parental missteps that quietly break trust with teens. And I'll give you exact repair scripts you can use this week to rebuild connection without smothering your teen's independence. Hi, I'm Sean Miller, a former professor of literature, a childhood trauma survivor, and a parent of 2. This channel explores the intersection of parenting and what I call self-parenting, recovering from the mistakes in our upbringing so that we don't repeat them. And today we're talking about the question behind 1,000 slammed doors. Why do teens stop trusting their parents, and what can you do about it? Here's the paradox of parenting teens. Your teen still needs you as a secure base, someone safe, steady, and emotionally available. And at the same time, they're supposed to differentiate, to become their own person with privacy, preferences, and a mind that's not stamped in your image. So trust gets strengthened when a parent communicates, "You're safe with me. Your inner world matters to me. You're allowed to be separate from me, and I'm still here, solid, loving, and responsible." In attachment theory language, teens are trying to meet basic needs for autonomy, and overly controlling parenting tends to backfire, because a teen will then often push harder for freedom. The goal is connection over control and guidance without possession. Now let's get practical. I'm going to give you 8 missteps, and for each one, what it looks like, what it costs, what to do instead, and a repair line you can literally read off your phone if you have to. Misstep number 1, privacy invasion disguised as concern. What it looks like: reading texts, checking browser history, going through the room, demanding passwords as a default. The implicit message your teen hears: your privacy is a privilege you earn by pleasing me. What it costs: secrecy, better lying, less disclosure. Not because your teen is bad, but because privacy becomes oxygen, and they'll get oxygen however they can. Consider doing this instead. Trust first. Verify when necessary. If you suspect real safety issues, self-harm, drugs, exploitation, then yes, you intervene. But the key is transparency and proportionality. Don't surveil their whole life to manage your anxiety. Here's a repair script. Hey, I realize I've been checking up on you in a way that feels invasive. I want to rebuild trust. Going forward, your privacy is the default. If I'm worried about something specific and serious, I'll talk to you directly and I'll tell you what I'm doing and why. Misstep number 2, conditional love, coldness, guilt, and emotional punishment. This is what it looks like. The silent treatment, an icy tone, an attitude of, after everything I've done, big sighs, wounded martyr energy when they disappoint you. And here's the hidden message: my love is earned through compliance. What it costs? Either rebellion, nothing I do is enough, or people-pleasing. My job is to manage your feelings. Either way, trust dies because honesty becomes emotionally dangerous. Do this instead. Separate behavior correction from bond security. Your teen needs to know that the relationship is stable even when the feedback is hard. And here's a repair script. I didn't like that choice, and we're still going to talk about consequences, but I also want you to know something. My love isn't up for negotiation. I'm not withdrawing from you. I'm here. Misstep number 3, dismissing their emotions or minimizing their world. This is what it looks like. It's not a big deal. You're overreacting. That's just teen drama. You'll laugh about this someday. The hidden message: your feelings only count if I agree with them. And what it costs: shut down. Your teen learns vulnerability leads to invalidation, so why open the door? Try this instead. Validate first, then problem solve only if invited. You don't have to approve of everything they feel. Validation is just saying, I see you. And here's the repair script. Okay, I see how big this feels. I'm not going to minimize it. Do you want to vent? Or do you want help thinking through what to do next? Misstep number 4, turning every conversation into a lecture or an interrogation. This one often doesn't get named, but it's huge. What it looks like: rapid fire questions, courtroom logic. Why would you do that? Immediate advice, fixing mode, moralizing, all in the first 30 seconds. The hidden message: talking to me costs you freedom. I'm collecting evidence. What it costs: shorter answers, less initiation. I'm fine on repeat. Here's something to try instead. Lead with curiosity and consent. Connection is often 2 minutes of attunement before any guidance. Here's a repair script. I'm realizing I jump into detective mode. I'm sorry. I don't want you to feel interrogated. Can I just listen first, and then, if you want, we can talk about solutions? Misstep number 5, achievement obsession. Treating your teen like a resume. What it looks like: every conversation roots back to grades, productivity, college, scholarships. Are you on track? The hidden message: you matter most when you perform. What it costs: anxiety, burnout, hiding struggles, or giving up. And trust erodes because being human becomes disappointing. Try this instead. Ask about the person, not just the accomplishments. If you want a teen who can handle failure, they need a parent who stays connected during failure. Here's a repair script. I've been acting like your grades are the main story, and that's on me. I care about you more than outcomes. How are you actually doing, like, inside? Misstep number 6, only showing up during emergencies. What this looks like: you're emotionally available only when there's a crisis. Failing grades, caught vaping, panic attack, blow up fight. The hidden message is this: I'm not really available unless something is broken. And this is what it costs. They either hide problems to avoid triggering your reaction, or they create drama just to get connection. Here's an alternative. Build low stakes closeness. Car rides, snack runs, casual presence. Be the coffee shop, not the ER. And here's a repair script. I've been too busy unless something's wrong. I don't want our relationship to be crisis only. Can we do something small together this week with no agenda? Misstep number 7, control obsession, micromanaging instead of mentoring. This is what it looks like: trying to control friends, clothes, phone habits, hobbies, moods, attitudes, everything. The hidden message is this: I don't believe you can become yourself without me steering every step. And this is what it costs: sneaking and lying, or dependence and anxiety. Try this instead. Shift from control to clear values, plus firm boundaries, plus shared problem solving. You can't control your teen into a healthy adult, but you can connect with them into one. And overly controlling parenting tends to trigger pushback because teens are trying to meet autonomy needs. Here's a repair script. I've been trying to control too much, and I get why you hate that. Here's what I can control: our house rules and safety boundaries. I want more collaboration and more trust with you. Let's talk about what independence looks like and still keeps you safe. Misstep number 8, weaponizing vulnerability or breaking confidentiality. This is the trust killer nobody forgets. Here's what it looks like. Your teen tells you something tender, embarrassing, or scary, and later you bring it up during an argument, use it to teach a lesson, mock it, or share it with relatives or the other parent without permission. The hidden message here is your inner world isn't safe with me. And what it costs is the end of openness. Your teen stops confiding, not dramatically, just quietly. Try this instead. Treat disclosures like a sacred deposit. If you need to involve another adult for safety, tell your teen up front and explain why. Here's a repair script. I need to apologize. You trusted me with something personal and I didn't protect it. I understand why you'd stop telling me things. Going forward, I won't use what you share against you, I promise, and I won't share it with others unless it's a safety issue, and I'll tell you first. If you heard yourself in any of these, here's the good news. Trust isn't rebuilt by perfect parenting. It's rebuilt by repair. Here's a simple repair ladder you can use. Name what happened. Specific behavior, not character. Own the impact, even if your intent was good. Apologize without defending or justifying. State the change. Here's what I'll do differently. Invite collaboration. What would help you feel safer with me? And here's the line that often matters most to teens. I can handle hearing the truth. I may not always like it, but I can handle it. That sentence tells your teen, my parent can tolerate my reality without collapsing, exploding, or controlling me. That's secure attachment with room to individuate. If you want to keep your teen close, the goal isn't to eliminate conflict. The goal is to become the kind of parent your teen can disagree with and still feel emotionally safe around. If this hits home, tell me in the comments. Which misstep is the easiest to fall into in your house? Privacy, control, fixing, or emotional withdrawal? And as always, this is educational and not a substitute for professional help. If your family is dealing with trauma, depression, self-harm, or intense conflict, getting support from a good therapist can make all the difference.